Today's show is going to be a little bit different. And I've done this show for 7 months, and there is an interesting relationship between Ole Miss fans and Southern Miss fans. I get that. I understand that entirely. There's probably also an interesting relationship between Ole Miss fans and Memphis fans. I get that. It's the rivalry that really isn't a rivalry. But listen to Will Hall at Sunbelt Media Days.
Yeah, I would love to get it done. I'm all in. There's probably nothing I can do besides say I want to get it done. I know Jeremy McClain, our AD, would love to get it done, and I know our people would love to get it done. It's great for us because it's a low budget travel game, obviously. We're going to go to Starkville in 23, and then in 25 they're going to come back to the Rock. So it's great for us. We're going to play a so-called Power 5 team every year. So it would be great if we could just keep it right here and keep all that money in state and do it right here. I'd much rather play Mississippi State and Ole Miss than Alabama and Ohio State and Miami and those guys.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That was Will Hall at Sunbelt Media Days. And if you're wondering where this is coming from and why I'm talking about this today, this is obviously percolating down in Hattiesburg. And I think the super regional that we played down there, it sparked interest in this game happening again. Because Ole Miss and Southern Miss fans were able to peacefully coexist. Now, there were crazy stuffs from the Hattiesburg mayor, and I'm not saying everything is perfect. No, so understand that. But I think it is time that Ole Miss needs to start considering Southern Miss the same way it does Troy, the same way it does Louisiana Monroe, the same way it does South Alabama. Teams that they have no problem playing in, there's not really a thought to doing it because these are teams that really can't hurt them. And if you lose that game, that's more of an on-you situation than any situation where they're up for it. All teams are up for beating Ole Miss. They really want to win. USA really wants to win. Troy's really going to want to win. Louisiana Monroe really wants to win because Ole Miss is a notch that they can reach that you wouldn't normally be able to get to. So this would be a huge win in their program, just like Southern Miss. It's the same situation, but there is a middle block, a cognitive mental block about Ole Miss fans when it comes to Southern Miss. And I think that's the way because of the way the series ended in 1984. Because if you go back to 1984, that was a completely different college football than we have today. All of the athletic budgets were relatively the same. It didn't matter that Ole Miss and State was in the SEC and Southern Miss was, I guess at that point they were an independent. I don't know. This is before Conference USA. And it just didn't matter. All the budgets were about the same. It was about probably $10 or $15 million a year for all of the athletic sports. So there was a parity between Southern Miss, Ole Miss, and State because all the schools played their big home games in Jackson. All had little stadiums on campus that weren't particularly nice. And to a player in State, it looked like the choice was between three. And Ole Miss fans will tell you today that them stopping playing USM is exactly why it is the way it is today, that isn't true. The SEC and the evolution of college football is the reason it is where it is today. Because if you look at athletic budgets, Ole Miss's athletic budget is somewhere around $110 million a year. I think Southern Miss is somewhere between 20 and 30. Their athletic budget is much closer to Jackson State than it is to even upper-level Sunbelt schools like Coastal. They're an ultimate little brother. They're teetering on the FCS level. But some Ole Miss fans will look at them because they had a rough experience losing a 13-10 game in Jackson in 1984 that they want them to die on the vine. You hear that all the time. Let them die on the vine. They're not going to die. They're not going to go away. And any relevance that they lost is because the SEC gained prominence in the national landscape. And Ole Miss has been along rising tide lifts all ships in that scenario. It's not anything that Ole Miss did. They play Mississippi State. Southern Miss is not rapidly bouncing back after those games. They've done this for fairly close to a decade now. I think it's going to be 5 times over 10 years they've played by the time it's done in 2024. And I just don't understand why that game shouldn't come back for Ole Miss. Now, whenever the schedule happens and we go to a 9-game conference schedule, which is going to happen, the game that's going to go out is one of the G5 games. There's going to be a Power 5 that's going to stay in. There's going to be an FCS that is absolutely going to stay in. One of the 2 G5s is going to go away. My suggestion is once every 10 years or twice every 10 years, play a Southern Miss football game instead of Troy. Instead of Louisiana Monroe, instead of South Alabama, instead of those guys, play USM a couple of times a decade. The same thing for SES games. Play Jackson State. Play Alcorn. I don't know if you can play Valley because I think their coefficient or whatever is too low and it would hurt you rather than help you. But keep that in state and do what you have to do. Do not prop up the Louisiana directional schools. Do not prop up the Alabama directional schools. Do not prop up the Tennessee directional schools. All of these neighboring states are the beneficiaries of a fan base that does not want to play USM. I think Ole Miss every 10 years should play USM twice, Memphis twice, Tulane twice, UAB twice, and probably MTSU twice. Every 10 years. And it would be a situation that would be fun. Those are nice, travelable games that people can go whenever attendance is a problem in college sports these days. It has a chance to be fairly special. That is just my opinion of what's going on. But I do think it is time to start treating USM the same way we would treat Troy, USA, ULM. And whenever we see them on the schedule, USM needs to be the same thing. They're not the boogeyman. They haven't been the boogeyman for 20 years. It's okay to play that game again. It's a game that you will be expected to win 90% of the time. Would you lose one? Yeah, eventually. It's a sport. It's a competition. Don't be so risk adverse that you're afraid of losing. Just my opinion. Anyway, I do want to tell you about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Maybe even Major League Soccer. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sporting wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. By the way, Derek Vandegrift is going to be doing a gambling show during the fall for us on this channel. So if you like Derek, he's going to be back. We're going to use him during football as well. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts.